This podcast is a space for open conversations about gender, identity, and relationships. While we share our personal experiences and insights, this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. Some topics may be sensitive. Listener discretion is advised.
You ready for this?
I guess so.
Deep breaths. Just like you're just talking to me. It's not that big of a deal.
I know.
Well, welcome everyone. This has been a long time in the making. I've wanted to do this for a while, but finally in a place where we can do it. I'm Kolton. I'm a trans man. I use he, him pronouns. I've been out for several years, been on HRT for about 3 years now. I've kind of lost track. And then with me is Carlee.
Hey, I'm Carlee. I'm a licensed social worker and Colton's girlfriend. I am just glad to be here.
Carlee's going to be here for more so the professional side of things from her social work and knowing how people think. And then I'm going to be here for more of the personal hands-on details and facts and intel.
We're hoping that we can work together on this and provide a well-rounded
platform.
Yep. Thank you. You took the words right out of my mouth.
I don't have too much experience with people, unlike Carlee. Granted, Carlee hasn't had too much experience with trans-identifying people within her work, mainly because she's kind of new to the game there anyway. But I've helped people, via support groups on Facebook, and then I've worked like retail jobs and sales and stuff. So I've, had my fair share of dealing with people. I wanted to be able to help people more on a dynamic scale than what I'm doing at the moment, because it's been case by case, and I've been told by a lot of the people that I have helped that I should do this professionally. And well, there is no career path, at least for what I found through research for it. So here I am doing it this way.
So proud of you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
At least somebody is.
Well, you know me. I'm your number one supporter in this.
I really want to make this platform safe for anybody, and I mean anybody. I don't care if you're gay, straight, non-binary, cisgender, trans, I don't care. If you want to learn and have an open mind, this platform is for you. We definitely are going to be big on not tolerating hate. We are well aware that we're going to get that, which, it is what it is. You can't please everybody. I'm really big on the message, which if any of you follow our TikTok, which if you don't, please go do that.
Please.
That every transition is different. You should never hold yourself to the standards of others. A lot of it comes down to genetics and time and different dosages and your health and all kinds of things. And, where you are in life in general, whether that's age, whatever it may be, you should never hold yourself to the light of others. You should just focus on you. There's only one you. So we're going to really cover how different a relationship is, both prior and post hormones for me, because that's really what I could speak on from my experience, how my identity has changed my daily life, the challenges I faced, some fun stories thrown in there too.
And I'm going to be talking about kind of more of like mental health, how a transition can affect someone from a professional side. I'm going to be talking about kind of just even being the girlfriend of someone that's transgender and just kind of how I'm navigating that and being new to this.
And you've only been with cisgendered people up to this point. So it's definitely a learning curve for you too, but I think you've handled it quite well.
And yeah, so basically just navigating life as a trans person and an ally.
As of right now, we plan to release an episode once a week. We're aiming for Tuesdays. Obviously, the flu that we just had really threw a rock in that plan.
Kickstart Boutte.
Yeah, so I definitely apologize to those who do follow the TikTok that saw that we announced that we were pushing the release date to today, Thursday, due to us both being ungodly sick. First off, we do have several social media platforms for everyone to follow too. I have gone through and I've made an Instagram, I've made a TikTok. We have an email set up too, so if you want to submit a question or a story, whatever, and you want us to share it, we keep those anonymous. You can email us if we feel like we can talk about them in a honest and accurate manner, something that we can relate to, then we will. I won't talk on stuff that I'm not experienced with or feel I'm educated enough to talk about, because that just makes me feel like a poser. This is really going to be focused around not only my experience, but like my advice. Definitely don't seek this just for professional help. Like, do see a counselor if you need one.
That's going to be my biggest thing that I'm going to be talking about, is making sure that you seek professional help and not just coming to us. While we can provide some insight and some counseling, I really strongly encourage, if you're questioning or anything like that, please reach out to someone. There's a lot of great resources out there, and you're not alone in this.
Not at all. I share videos from, supporting companies and organizations and everything else. I know it's a little hectic right now. Another thing I will say is I hate the stigma around counseling. I feel like we say that like it's a chore. Counseling's for anybody. You don't have to go to counseling just because you feel you're mentally ill. It's just nice to have, a non-biased person to talk to.
Yep. I mean, I'm a social worker, so I'm always going to err on the side of go seek counseling no matter what. I believe anyone can benefit from counseling
I
no
loved
matter
counseling. I loved counseling. I went for several years. The other thing, too, is if you are wanting to start hormones and you're early on in your transition, they're going to make you do that anyway to make sure that you can even emotionally handle hormones. I don't think people realize how much it truly changes your body. It's not just physical changes. I mean, you change the way that you think, the way that you smell, the way that you literally experience the world. Everything changes.
Yeah.
Literally the way that you physically smell and the way that you smell, like in a sense, changes. Like all of it changes. Way of thinking, your emotional being, like all of it changes. And I don't think people understand the gravity of that. But then again, it's not really out there for the public either.
I plan on doing some research on, organizations, people that you guys could reach out to as well, other than us, more professional people as well.
There's really a lot of more resources out there than I think people realize. TikTok, especially, is an easy way to find those. Anyone can get gender affirming care. So you just got to kind of do your research and figure out what's best for you.
Yep. Do you want to talk about your journey a little bit more in depth of?
I would say probably the biggest question I get would be, when did I know? And I can confidently say I've always known. I remember being, 4 or 5 years old and looking at the men in my life and never understanding why I was treated so differently because I was looked to as a female. Like I always looked at myself as one of the guys. So that was a very humbling experience for me throughout my whole childhood. I remember sometime in first grade that my dad had got frustrated with my hair. My hair was so awful to take care of. It was very thin and dingy and it would mat up like no other. So he cut all my hair off at like a bob cut, but it was very masculine looking, especially on a first grade age child. And I remember the Boy Scouts came in and they like gave me a sticker. And I remember being so excited because like I didn't want to do Girl Scouts, I wanted to do Boy Scouts. And my classmates were like, "Oh no, like no, they're not a boy." And they took the sticker away from me. And I think that was like my first hands-on experience of like gender dysphoria. Well, obviously I didn't know then. I was just a kid. I didn't understand that feeling or the gravity of that feeling. The other question I get is, would I have started hormones earlier in my journey? Which I'll touch this lightly because I would like to dedicate a whole episode to just the hormone side of things because it's so much. I don't regret waiting because I think it was important for me to experience the other side of the coin to better navigate life. Like I think I understand women more than a cisgender man ever would. Maybe excluding the men that have sisters or maybe even daughters. They don't have hands-on experience with, menstrual cycles and relationships and, just the whole first-hand experience of what the world is like towards a girl versus a guy, which, I mean, I'm still learning the guy side of the coin. It's so different for me. I have to remind myself all the time that I'm not seen the way that I see myself. When I am friendly with women, in my head, it's harmless. But I realize now that with me being so male presenting that it can be intimidating and scary. And I've come to that a couple times face to face. So that's a humbling experience in itself.
Honestly, I think my first question to you was, when did you know? So I feel like that's a lot of people's first questions to you.
Usually, because I think the media really pushes that it's a phase, at which I do know people will, detransition, which the trend that I've noticed with people that do is they start their transition really early in their like late teens. And then they get to about my age to early to mid 30s and they go, "Oh, I don't know, this is for me. Maybe I shouldn't have done the hormone side. Maybe I'm more of the non-binary, gender fluid spectrum side of things." So I have seen people detransition, but I think most people that have gone through it would tell you that they've always known this is who they were meant to be, and they may have just not known how to get there.
Are you happy where you're at now in your transition?
I wish I was a little further, but again, it's super expensive, and where we're at, I gotta drive an hour and a half to see specialists for, my blood work and stuff, which I mean it's worth it, but at the same time it's a little annoying where I can't just go to my general, PCP, which I mean they could do it, but that's not something they specialize in. So you always run that risk of they won't catch something. So I'd much rather just go to a specialist.
Yeah.
But I definitely wish I was further. But a lot of that comes down to genetics, and I can't base my transition off of others.
Yeah, you can't. That goes for anyone though too. Even if you're, cisgendered, right? You can't base where you're at in life around others.
But I think social media paints a very false image too, because people only post the good side of things or the worst. Like you don't see the middle ground everyday experiences. You either are seeing the best side of somebody or the worst side. And I think social media especially has destroyed like a lot of people's not only emotional, stability, but their self-esteem too. Like
Mhm.
you look at, oh, so-and-so that I graduated with, they're married, they have kids, they have a house, they have this. Just because they have that doesn't mean that the grass on the other side of that picket fence is green.
Oh, yeah.
So they could be miserable, but they don't put that on Facebook because they want to show that they have the ultimate life and that they're accomplished. You never know what someone's going through behind closed doors, and they're not going to post that on social
Yep.
media. What has been the most challenging thing for you to learn? I guess the humbling experience of dating someone who was female and now male versus someone who was just innately male.
I honestly can't think of like a challenging.
Okay, maybe challenging isn't the word. Like, what is the biggest takeaway? That's the word I want. Takeaway from it of like, okay, this like when you knew, okay, this is different. This isn't what I'm used to. We both know that you didn't know right away. I had to tell you.
Yeah. I think when it came to me starting my menstrual cycle and then you understanding where I'm coming from, like cisgendered men that, have sisters or like they talk about their moms or their, whatever, like their past girlfriends. Like, yeah, you have that experience, but like you had that like firsthand experience. And I think that's kind of helped make me feel better too.
Especially since I had like PCOS and I had all the female issues that a lot of women struggle with, especially nowadays. So I think that helps too if like you complain about the pain and everything. I get it.
Yeah.
I get the fatigue. I get all of it. I'm not saying that cisgender men can't be sympathetic to that or understanding. It's just, it's a lot different having hands-on experience
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, it'd be like no different than a mechanic. Mechanic's going to know a car inside out, but just because you're a car guy doesn't mean that you can rebuild a motor.
So that's been kind of like perk, I guess, in a way. The challenging thing has been with my parents. I mean, that was,
Your parents handled it really well,
they
though.
did. But I think that was like the most nerve-wracking thing.
It helps too that your mother also works in social work, So she already kind of was going into it open-minded, and she found out on her own via researching me and finding me on social media and,
Stalker.
well, she's being a responsible parent and she's looking into who I am.
Yes.
I'm not going to throw any shade her way. I would have done the same thing if it was my kid. And I think your dad handled it very well too. But with that said, both of your parents tend to be very open-minded compared to at least mine. I come from a very conservative background, so I've been humbled very much in that department.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of used to pushback at this
Yeah.
point, so it probably wouldn't have surprised me if they didn't support me. I would be like, go figure. But I'm blessed in that department that they didn't. So.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions for me?
What is something that you wished other people knew about, like, the trans side of things that you don't think people would know, that you now know from dating one?
That you should not listen to the media. The media portrays you guys as like these awful human beings in a way, especially now.
I think the word is entitled.
Oh, yeah. But also, I feel like
and glorified. Like, I feel like the media portrays us as this, we're shoving it down your throat, we're in your face about it,
Yeah.
And if you ever notice, a lot of the times media uses footage of like drag queens, and it's like, that is a whole different department, my friend.
Yeah.
Like my drag sister and brothers, they are not, from what I've learned, are trans anyway.
Yeah.
They just, that's their job. They enjoy it. They enjoy makeup. They enjoy, the act of it. Maybe they did drama in school, and it's like, it's a whole different department.
Yeah.
It's a whole different department.
But I think, social media portrays, like I said, you guys as like, I keep wanting to go to the word like awful, like in a way, not that like it.
Well, and predators too.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at that stupid bathroom debate, and it's like, Do I understand that you don't want men in women's restrooms? 100%. But one, trans women are women. And two, what is stopping a man from walking in the restroom anyway? It's not like there's a bouncer.
Yeah.
And how are you going to enforce that anyway? Like, are you going to pull down everyone's pants and inspect them? Like, you're not going to do that. You can't even enforce that anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone like me walked in the women's restroom, I'm going to get beat up regardless, because you're not pulling down my pants to see what I have. You're going to look at me and be like, oh, this dude has a beard.
Yeah.
He's done. And I think the other thing with that is everyone, like, especially with the media, with the bathroom thing, they're targeting trans women. They forget that us trans men exist. Like, yeah, it's all fun and games, but if one, you don't want her walking in the men's restroom either. You mean to tell me that's not going to make some man uncomfortable? And you think of how much money we put into not only the surgeries, but the hormones and the years of wear and tear that we're putting on our bodies and our minds just to get to where we need to be. For what? To go in the other bathroom? Like, that's, why would we go through all of that if we were going to be a sexual predator? Like, it doesn't even make any sense to me. Like, I don't understand why that side of the media pushes that, other than the fact that people listen to it, because what else are you going to listen to? That's all that's been thrown down your throat. So
yeah, and I mean, not every, transgender person is how the media portrays you guys.
No, we just are trying to live life, dude.
Exactly. I can guarantee you've probably walked past at least probably 5 transgender people in your life.
I'm going to say at least 5 a day.
Yeah.
Honestly, at least 5 a day. Like, if you go to the grocery store, guarantee it.
Yeah.
I literally could almost put money on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you have the people that live, as we call it, stealth, that fly under the radar. They don't tell anybody. Like, you would never know.
Yeah.
Because they keep their mouths shut, because they know that's what they need to do. Because there are people out there that will target us just because they don't understand it. People fear what they don't understand.
And I'm hoping that this podcast helps a lot of people understand, the community.
We are not an active revolution.
Yeah.
We've always existed. I mean, you look through history, there are so many examples of trans people existing. It's crazy to me. And they don't put that in the history books or on the documentaries or anything, because it pisses people off. It's sad. I blame most of it on politics.
Now let's steer away from politics.
I'm staying away from politics, but I'm saying, like, when you look at the media, that's what most of them are using it for, some sort of political gain. It's never for the concern of the general public. It's usually for political gain, and it's disgusting.
It is. It really is.
And disheartening.
So just kind of steering away from the politics that you don't want to talk about. We could talk a little bit about our story. I think it's kind of a unique story in a way.
I think anyone can relate, whether, they're a gay couple, they're a straight couple, or a T for T couple. We kind of went the route that most people our age are going now, of doing the dating apps and everything. I'm not a big drinker, so, like, the whole idea of me going into a bar and meeting someone was just off the table, because I'm not going to be that weirdo that walks in, sits in a bar, and orders a water. Because, I mean, it's just weird. It makes me feel weird, I guess, because I think people look at you and go, what, and it almost makes you feel rude too when someone's like, oh, can I buy you a drink? And you're like, oh, no, thank you. And it's not because you're being rude. It's because I don't drink. So, we did the dating apps. I found Carlee on Facebook dating, which ironically is probably my least favorite dating app. Granted, I hate all of them. I would have to say, if I could pick one to like, I might say Bumble. Tinder, that is just if you're looking for some kind of intimacy, let's be honest. That's all anyone on there is looking for. You're not looking for a genuine connection. If you say you are, you're full of crap. But I matched with Carlee, ironically, more so on accident, because I wasn't even looking for a relationship. You have the dating side of Facebook dating, and then there's a side for like friends, which Bumble also has. And she was on the friend side, and I was like, well, I don't mind having friends, and I tend to lean towards having female friends because I feel safer with them. Maybe that's me being kind of hypocritical there. I'm trying to be more open-minded with it, but you never know what demons people hide, and especially with us being in such a conservative area. But, I matched with her, and I had Carlee meet me at my place of work in the parking lot after I got off, because I'm real big on picking a public spot. So not only I was safe, but she was safe.
Although, looking back, meeting at the place where you work probably wasn't the smartest, because then if it went south, then I knew where you work.
I wasn't too worried. And I'm real big on, I don't put the trans thing in my bios on my dating sites anyway. So, like, I pass well enough that you wouldn't know. So I don't even include that. With that being said, I'm not trying to deceive anybody. My general rule when I date online, especially, which is usually what I tell other trans people to do, is to go out on a date with the person if you genuinely feel like you pass well enough that these people do not know. Go out on a date with them. Do not kiss them. Don't do any kind of intimacy at all on the first date. Just see if you have a connection, if you can talk, and, you have common ground and everything else. End the night, go home, and then through text, tell them. And then you got to be very clear of explaining, like, I'm not trying to deceive you. Explain that, people will hurt you, and you want them to give you a fair chance to see if there was connection. And if that's not their thing, that's not their thing. Like, people are allowed to have preferences, and I don't like the whole, oh, well, you're transphobic, you're homophobic. No, just because someone has a preference doesn't make them a certain type of way. I respect it. And that was one thing that I told Carlee when I told her. But I did break the rules with Carlee, so. Went to one of my favorite barbecue places, too.
Yep. And then he's like, oh, do you want to...
This is how you know the date went well, was I asked her if she wanted to come home and meet my dog and my cats. And I try not to tell people that because they immediately think that I was trying to get in her pants, and that was not at all the case. That was literally the last thing on my mind. I just wanted to show her my pets. But then, of course, I wait until we get into my driveway, and I realize, because I live with my dad and uncle, who dead name me left and right, I'm like, I'm going to tell this girl, because my uncle decides to come out and socialize. He's going to use my dead name, and she's going to be like, who the hell? And so I just looked at her, I was like, so I have something to tell you. And I remember just looking at the fear in her eyes, of like, oh God, where is this going? And then let me tell you, it was the most least dramatic thing I've ever gone through, because she's just like, okay.
He's like, I have something to tell you. And I'm like, immediately, I could feel my heart stop. What is this guy about to tell me in his driveway? And it's freaking dark, too.
It's dark. I live in the middle of the woods. Our driveway is a quarter mile long. She's like, this dude is going to murder me.
He's like, I'm transgender. And I'm like, I look over at him. I'm like, okay. And I think I saw a little bit of relief in your face. Like, okay, this did not go how I thought it was going to go.
It did not go the way I thought it was going to go at all. It went very smooth. But I have faced a lot of pushback in the past. I mean, even from people that said they were fine with it. Because I used to put it on my profile. But then I had a girl way back, kind of earlier on in my transition, that we met at an O'Charlie's in the area. And she had known, because I matched with her, I think, on Her, which is a gay dating app, whatever. And met up with her. We had dinner. I paid for the meal, whatever. And I walked her out to her car and she beat me up. And I just remember, probably my face was hysterical, because I probably looked like I saw a ghost or Bigfoot or something. Because I was like, Bigfoot. I was like, what in the hell is going on? And yeah, she was just like, I was put on this earth to eradicate people like you.
Sickening.
And I think the only reason that I walked away from that was I was just like, you don't have to like me, but I respected you, and the least you could do is respect me. Like, why? You wasted so much time out of your day for what? I just remember looking at her you just wasted not only my time, but your time. This was stupid on so many levels. Yeah. And I think she was most surprised that I didn't really even try to defend myself, because I'm not going to hit a woman. Two, I was so blindsided by it. I just remember being dumbfounded. Even the whole drive home, I was like, what the hell just happened to me? And after that, I was like, I'm never putting it in my bio ever again. Yeah. Never. I'm not putting it on my profile, nothing. Because I was like, this girl said she was fine with it. And we talked for 3 weeks before we even went to dinner. I was very cautious with her. And to get hurt like that, it was just crazy to me.
Yeah. But then I remember asking you kind of why were you scared? Because you voiced that you were nervous, and you're like, oh, so you said you were Catholic. And I'm like, don't worry about that.
And I feel bad for throwing shade at the Catholic, but I just know that they tend to be the real sticklers when it comes to the biblical side of things. So it's just I try and stay away from it, because I'm not here to preach why my existence is or isn't okay.
Yeah.
I'm just me. Take me as I am or don't.
Yeah.
Life's too damn short for me to try and please everybody.
Yeah.
And I can't make everyone like me. And let's be honest, I don't like everybody. So why would I even hold myself to that standard?
Yeah. But, I mean, it didn't scare me at all. I mean, it was just kind of you told me, and I was like, okay.
You were so nonchalant about it. And my uncle didn't even come out and talk.
Yeah, but I like that you broke the rules for me. So, I mean,
I broke the rules with you from like day one, too.
Yep.
I'm usually big on, okay, I'm going to talk to you for 3 months before I even ask you out. Yeah, it was like 3 days. Oops.
and here we are.
Technically, I talked to you longer than that, but
Yeah. Well, I ghosted you for a little bit too. So,
you did ghost me for a hot minute, but it's fine.
I mean, we're here. We're here now. 5 months.
We could have been here quicker, but somebody had to ghost me.
You know what? Whatever. I remember a joke that I made to you was something about wanting to get like stretched to be taller, and you're like, I'm 5'7". Is that not tall enough for you?
Oh God, being a short king is just a pain, and I'm not even that short compared to others. Like my heart goes out to my trans brothers that are like 5'2". Like, do you know how bad that dating pool probably is? Like, think about it. I feel like most women are either that height or taller.
Well, I get to brag, so it's all good. I forgot what we were talking about.
Well, I was talking about being short and trying to date it, and you ignored me.
I didn't ignore you. I heard you.
Well, you didn't respond.
I like that you're a short king. It's okay.
I would say I'm an average. Okay.
You're like
Listen, I am like the guys that are like
Twix. You're like a regular size Twix
no.
because you're not the king size.
I'm king size, thank you.
You're not king
Listen,
size. You miscalculated. Just
I leave it called compensating, babe. You've been heavily disappointed.
Been like disappointed. But yeah, that's a little bit about like our relationship. I'm sure we'll probably bring it up a little bit more. I mean,
sure.
it's one of my favorite stories is talking about, how we first started dating and that kind of stuff. And here we are now, 5 months in. A moment or challenge that shaped our journey together. We could talk a little bit about that. I think we did a little bit. At least for me, it was my mom finding out. That was probably one of the hardest things. And then
I think
dad.
I think the most humbling experience for you was the lifestyle change because you came from the city.
Oh,
And I am like bona fide country out in the sticks.
yeah, I came
Quarter mile down a dirt road to a house in the middle of the woods with four-wheelers and cows and all this. And you came from like literally, for one, the whole other side of the map. You came from down south.
Yep.
And here I am like, okay, we're going to put you on this four-wheeler and you're going to like it.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about like just like our relationship in general, that was probably one of like the biggest. But I always talk about how if I were born up here,
that's probably what you would be.
It would be exactly like I feel like I've not been molded into like your lifestyle now, but I feel like I've kind of like
you have messed well.
Right.
You've met
it
well.
like
Good.
It's been like in me this entire time that I am meant to be this country chick that just rides four-wheelers and plays.
Oh, you haven't even experienced the half of it because
Exactly.
you came into the equation right as it was starting to get cold here in the Northeast. So
yeah, but I came from a whole different state, city, and everything, and then here I am.
I do remember
and
driving to my house. I was like, when we get there, I want you to know I'm not going to murder you. I do remember looking at you and saying that we were already halfway there, and you just like sighed on me like, "The hell did this guy just say to me? What do you mean you're not going to kill me?" First off, I passed out at the sight of blood, so that wasn't going to work for you.
Dang it! It would have been a great first date. Did murder?
No. That's
TV show.
That's too much excitement from horror. Dear God, I don't need a TV show.
No, but I feel like I've definitely meshed well, and I feel like you've somewhat meshed into mine too. I feel like we've kind of met a little bit in the middle of.
Well, I think I also got kind of exposed to both sides of the coin because I went to, kind of more of a preppy school, at least up until my junior year. Because my junior year is when I left to go to trade school. So up until that point, I went to, an upper class school with preppy people and the wealthy, as we call it. I think I got exposed to that side of things. I went through high school for the most part until my junior year as being a female/gay female. So it was like I had female friends that did the girly things and going and getting their nails done, doing that. So like I tagged along for those things and I got exposed to that side of life. But it was just because if I didn't, I literally was going to have like 0 friends because that was what I was surrounded by.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love getting my nails done. That's probably like my number one.
Listen, I went and got my nails done with you, and that dude murdered my hands. Murdered them.
You're gonna come with me again.
I literally, I think I have PTSD from that. Like,
You'll be
I've
fine.
not, no.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
He tore my cuticles up in ways that I didn't even know was possible.
Found a new salon. They're so much better. You're coming with me next time.
I don't think mine need done, though.
It's okay. You could get just like a little massage or something.
I do like massages.
Yep.
One thing that you can add, now that I'm thinking about it, is why you got into social work in the first place. I mean, obviously, you haven't experienced the trans side, I think, but clearly you had an interest in helping people at some point in your life.
Well, my mom was a social worker, so I grew up with that. Like, literally my entire life, she was a social worker. She still is. I look up to her so much.
She's a psychotherapist, get it right.
But her credentials are LISW, Licensed Independent Social Worker.
Okay, but she calls herself a psychotherapist, so.
Whatever. You know what? And she's probably listening to this, and she's probably going to laugh at this conversation.
Good. That was my whole point.
But I look up to her so much. She's the reason why I'm a social worker. She kind of pushed me a little bit to go down this realm of help.
Pushes you in everything you do.
She really does. And so does my dad.
You need to be grateful of that.
I am. But yeah, I struggled a lot in college of like, what do I want to do? I went back and forth between like a physical therapist, speech pathologist, kind of like in that helping profession. My mom was like, just become a social worker. You could do so much with it. Get your license. And then here I am, graduated. I have my master's degree in social work, got my license, working towards my independent license, to hopefully do individual counseling. I open up my own practice. Yeah, I just wanted to help people. I feel like that's the most common answer that you can say when you're a social worker is that you want to help people, but really that's truly, what I'm here for. I work in a psychiatric unit currently. That's what I started out as when I started my career in social work 3 years ago, 2 years ago. I don't even know. And I still am working in a psychiatric unit. So I have come across, transgender people here and there, not super often. So I know a little bit, whether it's, the child adolescent side of it too, of them kind of like questioning their identity, to an adult that's just starting hormones, to someone that already has been on hormones and is now just kind of struggling mentally. So I have like a little bit of knowledge, not too much, but I have somewhat. I have a little bit more now because of Kolton, and he definitely helps too. Just kind of like, I think my eyes opened up a little bit more of like, how can I help? How can I help? I don't want to say these people.
Well, your patients. You're trying to.
How can I help my?
Can I help my patient?
Yeah.
Which you have kind of bounced ideas off me before. Obviously, you never tell me like private information because you don't do that. But you can't. You have come home and be like, hey, I have this patient who is dealing with this. What can I do? And I've kind of given you. I don't tell you exactly what to do. I lay out like your options, but like, okay, this is what I would do, but here's your other options. Do what you feel is best, and I feel like you've done good at that.
Yeah.
And I'll be blatantly honest with you. Honest with you. I didn't know what the hell a social worker was before you. Did not know. Like, I had heard it mentioned.
Yeah.
And I mean, I got put into onto a psych floor before. And obviously I talked to a social worker, but I didn't know that's what they were and what their job was.
And I feel like that's very common for a lot of people is they think that a social worker, we're just taking children away from their parents, and that's not necessarily, what we do. I mean, granted, there are, some realms where that does happen, but it's not.
It's no different than not every social worker is working on a psych or has their own practice or whatever, It's kind of like police. I mean, police have different departments too. Doctors have different it's the same thing, same concept. You have that in no matter what job you have, you have different positions. Yeah. So it makes sense.
But I'm hoping to help with like the mental health side of things in this podcast. And, if anyone needs to reach out, we're here. But again, a counselor if you need to. I will always say that, probably in every episode now, just to kind of put that out there of like, there is professional help. You don't have to see a counselor every week. You could see them on your own terms with them.
Well, and nowadays too, you have apps too, so you don't even have to leave your house.
Yep.
Like, and a lot of times, most insurance will cover them, or they offer payment plans or whatever. Like, there's really no excuse anymore. You can video chat with them, text with them. There's such an open realm for that.
But that's me, social worker here. I'm sure it'll probably come up again. I'm sure we'll probably talk a little bit more in depth of,
And I want to reiterate because I mentioned the email thing earlier, which I didn't think about until now, of like, you're allowed to ask questions to either of us too. Like, if you feel like your question doesn't pertain to me, but you think Carlee can answer it, just let us know that that's who you're asking. Obviously, both of us will read the emails, but, if you're wanting both of our perspective, feel free to say that. Or if you just want, one person's, let us know that. It's not that big of a deal. There are several goals that I want to accomplish with this podcast other than helping people. I need to be able to support myself. And once we get to where I'm wanting to get, I'm hoping that we could do a lot of charity work too for the trans community. I'm going to set up a tip jar too for anyone that wants to donate to our cause. Once we have a big enough platform, especially on the TikTok side of things, we'll probably be looking for like moderators and stuff for if we go live or whatever. So, just keep an eye out for that. There's going to be a lot of avenues for this. I just really want to open doors for my trans brothers and sisters because I feel like a lot of the doors get slammed in our faces.
And we're hoping to have guests and stuff on the podcast as well, just to continue to tell the stories of others, their upbringing, and just to kind of bring the light to not every transition is the same. You can email.
Well, the nice thing with us too is we can also give it some relationship advice. We can kind of give some insight to some relationship issues, especially because it is definitely different dating someone who is trans versus someone who. It's just going to be a different experience, no different than it's different from person to person to person. So it's like, there's just so much that comes with it that I don't think anyone's educated on it, and I really can't wait to touch on it. We've never done anything like this, so bear with us. We're still getting our bearings on how to do this podcast thing. We're trying out software, so this one's a little rocky. Please just hang in there with us. We'll get there eventually. Most of my social media that I've done in the past for, bands or anything that I've been in has been primarily through like TikTok and Instagram. So this whole podcast thing is new for me. I'm learning. I'm doing research. I'm doing what I can. I'm thinking for the next episode, we're really going to focus on what it was like for me to grow up AFAB, which is assigned female at birth for those that don't know. And, kind of go from there. And then I think we'll kind of bounce back and forth between episodes, focusing on me and then focusing on Carlee, because I definitely want to give her some spotlight too. And I think it'll help it be a neutral platform. We might include submissions from others if we get any from our viewers. And just because you email us, we don't have to talk about that on the podcast. Like, if you just want us to email you back of our advice or send you a clip or whatever, we will. Like, we won't blast you on the podcast. Like, unless you're blatantly ignorant, then we might.
Yeah.
I might blast you all over TikTok. I'm not going to lie.
You can always ask for your story to be told on the podcast too, and then we can try to, integrate it into whatever. It may not be on that next week's episode. If you want your story told, we're here.
I feel like this has been kind of a rough episode, so I do
apologize.
Yeah, we both apologize. A lot of it is nerves, and again, this is foreign territory. We're trying to do the right thing. We want to help people. We're still learning. We're navigating every day. We're going to get better with time. So just enjoy the ride with us. Subscribe, follow, like all of our social media.
Kolton's doing a really good job on our TikTok, by the way, and I highly suggest that you follow it.
Thanks, honey.
You're welcome.
I will say before we sign off, one thing that I want to remind everybody is that every transition is different. But that doesn't mean you have to go through it alone. There are a lot of resources out there, whether that is our podcast or organizations, doctors, counselors. This world is better with you in it. And there is only one you. Embrace the you.
I agree.
And we will see you guys next Tuesday.
Yes, Tuesday, not Thursday.
Tuesday.